the pleasure that that relationship will bring in the here and now more than I treasure the joy that long-term obedience will bring at the revelation of Christ. That is where the battle takes place. It's a battle that's being fought in my heart. Not primarily in my eyes, not primarily in my hands, but in my heart. Do I treasure the joy that will be mine at the revelation of Jesus Christ when I can stand before Him perfected and complete? Do I treasure that more than I treasure the immediate pleasure that sin can bring? And so how do we fight that battle that takes place in the heart? We've got to think the right things so that we treasure the right things, so that we do the right things. That's why Peter starts with the mind in verse 13. Prepare your minds for action. Be sober-minded. Think clearly. Think enthusiastically. Think actively about the joy, the grace that's going to come to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. We've got to think the right things before we can treasure the right things. Romans chapter 12, verse 2 says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may prove what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. Think the right things so that you can treasure the right things. That's why it's so important, I think, this reading through God's Word together that we're doing. It's so important that we go to God's Word. It's so important that we think deep truths about God's Word. It's so important that we fill our minds with truth from God's Word. Because when we think about the right things, and that leads to us treasuring the right things in our hearts, which leads to us doing the right things with our hands. That's the strategy. It's really simple. And so don't expect to win the battle against sin. Don't expect to win the battle of holiness if you're not going to God's Word, if you're not filling your mind with truth from God's Word, if you are not thinking about truth about salvation from God's Word. Don't expect that. Think the right things so that you will do the right things, so that you will treasure the right things, so that you'll do the right things. The battle is a battle that's fought in the heart. If you want to win the battle that's being fought in the heart, then you need to go to God's Word. You need to think about truth about salvation, and that will lead to you treasuring the things of God. And so really, I guess, just two questions from this passage. There's a lot more that we could say about that, but just two questions from this passage this morning. Question number one, is there a therefore moment in your story? Has there ever been any life transformation because of your relationship with Jesus Christ? Is there any therefore moment in your story? You can know all the facts about God, all the information about the Bible, all the Sunday school stories. You can know all of that. You can come to church every Sunday and sit in a pew. You can do all of those things and die and spend eternity separated from God in hell. If you have never had your life transformed by the truth of the gospel, then chances are there's never been any salvation. That's the first question. Is there a therefore moment in your story? Second question is, how are you doing in the battle for holiness? Is your life a reflection of what you say is in your heart? Are you living a life characterized by conformity to lust and to the things of the world? Or are you living a life that's characterized by holiness, by the conformity to the character of God? Which one is it? If you're trending a little more towards the world and a little more towards the lusts of the world, then use Peter's battle plan here. Go to God's Word. Fill your mind with truth about who God is and about what God has done. Think the right things. That will lead to you treasuring the right things. That will lead to you doing the right things. And so maybe this morning you need to meet God through Jesus Christ for the first time. Then do that. Maybe there's never been any life transformation and you know that and you want to make it right. Then I'll be happy to talk with you about your relationship